Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Alison Sepanera,
And I'm Taylor.
and we're so excited to be back this week with a special guest, something that I'm very excited for. Taylor, I know you were kind of connecting with him about the topic today. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes, you guys know that Allison and I are huge in the holistic modalities and looking into all of that and just looking beyond what we have seen with our eyes when we just go to the doctor and just finding all the things. So today we have Dr. Mike Belkowski. Did I say that right?
That was right. Spot on.
Awesome. Okay. Graduated as a physical therapist in 2016, but through a series of serendipitous events has become an expert in the red light therapy and methylene blue spaces where his company he founded in 2019, BioLight, also provides innovative technologies and preeminent supplements. He is passionate about educating the masses on the countless wellness and anti-aging benefits of what he has coined the Mitochondrial Triad: red light therapy, methylene blue, and carbon 60. Dr. Mike believes that everyone is entitled to optimal health, free of mitochondrial dysfunction, and believes red light therapy, methylene blue, and C60 will play a pivotal role in seeing this become a reality. I love all of that, but before we get into anything, I'm always curious when I meet people in the holistic world, what got you here? What got you into holistic health? You have to have some story. I just know it. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
what got you here?
The origin story. And like when I have a podcast too, so whenever I interview people, that's like the first story. What's the origin story? And I don't know. Mine's not as exciting as others. It's not like I was on this health or recovery or healing journey per se. I've just always been passionate about learning and the health and wellness space. That's why I got into physical therapy, my passion for helping others. And so I guess this isn't a quick story, but the story is I graduated in 2016, again, like you said, with zero ambitions or thoughts of starting any companies or businesses. I thought I was going to graduate, work a couple of years locally here in Montana, and then go to Australia or New Zealand and work there for a handful of years, because that's kind of where the hub of a lot of the physical therapy or physiotherapy research is, and then come back to the U.S. and just work more. But when I graduated, I took a local job, worked there for a couple of months at an outpatient PT clinic, and I quickly became, I guess, disgruntled with the system, specifically how insurances dictate how you treat patients.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of handed down by the managers or the clinic owners. Their hands are, I don't want to say forced, they make a choice, but we're told to do certain treatments when I know these other treatments can probably get the patient better quicker, but we're told to do the other ones because we're going to get reimbursed more. Um, so that just didn't sit well with me from a moral and integrity standpoint. So again, after a couple of months, I'm like, okay, I'll start a cash-based PT practice. I kind of did some research on the side and figured this could be a good option because by doing cash-based, you're not you're not handcuffed by the insurances per se. I can treat how I want to treat my patients, of course, under my scope of practice, but now I'm free to treat how I want. And so that is really what initiated this adventure or this journey of seeking out holistic or alternative treatments, if you want to call them that, because in Missoula, Montana, that's where the University of Montana is. That's where the physical therapy school in the state is. So Missoula is very dense with PT clinics. So I knew I was going to have to set myself apart somehow, and of course, offer effective, efficacious treatments. You can't just offer cool treatments for the sake of doing that. So I quickly became an expert, and really the several years I ran my practice, I became known and people came to see me for specifically dry needling. So I was dry needling people for hours and hours a day. Took the initial course. A year later, took the advanced course, and in the advanced course, I learned cupping. So that was another modality. Um, and through the subsequent years, I picked up other interesting treatments like blood flow restriction training, hyperbaric oxygen, and towards the end of that journey is when I came upon red light therapy. And I had heard about red light therapy for years prior to that on various podcasts, namely the Ben Greenfield podcast. And this is around 2017, 2018 at this point. But I heard it and it's like, red light therapy, what can light possibly do for your health? Like, this seems like a hoax or like some type of snake oil pitch. Because I had zero respect for how light impacts our health at that point. But again, I got this book, the one that's most popular on Amazon, the Ari Whitten book, The Ultimate Guide to Red Light Therapy. And it had thousands of reviews and like 5 stars. So I'm like, okay, I'm a sucker for a good book. let's see what this is all about. So I read it, and right away, the first third of the book is about the mechanisms of red light therapy, how it works theoretically, physiologically. And then the other 2/3 of the book is all the research and all the different ways that red light therapy can help, by treating the skin, treating the thyroid, treating the brain, treating the gut, treating, I forget if I said pain, women's health. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but it's backed by the research. I was like, wow, this is impressive. But again, that first third of the book with the mechanisms, there was a lot of parallels with red light therapy and dry needling. And again, with my experience and just knowing, I could essentially almost guarantee that anyone that walked in with any type of pain, be it acute, chronic, anywhere in the body, I could reduce it with dry needling surely by 50% within the first treatment, if not 70, 80, 90, sometimes 100. And most people I saw as a physical therapist, I was treating 2, maybe 3. If it was a really persistent condition, maybe 5 or 6 times. But it wasn't this traditional paradigm of I'll see you for 2 to 3 weeks 2 to 3 times a week for 6 to 8 weeks or beyond. Like I was seeing you and trying to recover you as quickly as possible. And so again, when I read that book, saw the mechanism, saw the parallel, it was a light bulb in my head. And I was thankfully because of that experience. And the cherry on top with red light therapy, and this is going to be a big topic for the rest of our conversation, is its impact on mitochondrial function. And that took me on a journey to this point where we are 2025. Now I have a massive, massive reverence for how mitochondrial function dictates the vast majority of our overall health, our health span, and our longevity. Upwards of 80% of modern diseases are directly tied to mitochondrial dysfunction. So again, back in 2018, or no, it's early 2019, I'm looking at what the market has to offer with red light therapy products. And there's these very expensive products, and I'm wondering if they really necessitate or justify their price point. Some of them integrate Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, which is kind of like the complete opposite of what you want to surround your mitochondria with. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's Amazon products. Nothing against Amazon, but like the cheap products and potentially cheap results, or you have to worry about the safety metrics in those. So I saw back in 2019, there was this void where if someone could come in and offer high quality products, minimize the EMFs, minimize the light flicker, offer high quality education, I thought there was a place for a company like that. So I started BioLight really as a hobby, as I was still trying to continue growing my PT practice. And the timing was kind of serendipitous in a sense that it was a hobby for the first couple of years, like very much. Like I was kind of working on it, but like, again, still growing my PT practice. But red light therapy was becoming more and more popular during those years. And it's kind of had this crescendo and this exponential rise the last couple of years for sure. And so BioLight during those years just took more and more of my time, to the point where I stopped treating patients in, I believe it was 2022, because BioLight was just taking so much of my time and energy. And then kind of to wrap up this long story, we can get to some questions here. The last couple of years, like I was talking about with my mitochondrial journey, led me to methylene blue, which I think, especially for anxiety and stress, is one of the lowest hanging fruit opportunities for people to really help with those types of issues. And there's just on its own, methylene blue is simply amazing for mitochondrial health. Red light therapy on its own is simply amazing for all different types of health conditions where the root cause is mitochondrial function. Together, you get this synergistic response because of that dark blue pigment of methylene blue when it's in your body, and then you're irradiated by that red light, because the peak absorption of methylene blue is around 650, 660 nanometers, which is dead center in the visible red light. You again get this synergistic effect for mitochondrial function. And then just quickly, the next thing that came stepwise was carbon 60, and that's one of the newest, I guess, coolest kids on the mitochondrial function and biohacking and longevity block, where in 2012 there was this study where they took rats that lived their normal lives, and then they took rats that were in the same conditions. The only difference was they were consuming C60. Well, the rats that just lived their normal lives passed away at the normal duration of their lifespan. When they passed away, their bodies were riddled with tumors, which is normal for those rats. They're called Wistar rats, which are used in a lot of research studies. The rats that consume the C60 lived 90% longer, 90, and when they did die, their bodies had no tumors. So when biohackers and longevity fiends heard that, that's where C60 kind of got a little shine in the sun, if you will. But it wasn't really until 2016-17 that C60 became available for consumption. There were companies that were probably rushing to the market in the early time. But the person I have the highest regard for C60 expertise and information is Chris Burris, and he co-founded the company called SES Research, like back in '94 when they were producing C60 for industrial purposes. And it was actually his lab that supplied that 2012 study that led to the 90% increase. And he wasn't in a rush to get C60 out on the market because, okay, here's one study, but he still wanted to do his due diligence. Like, he's not the guy to just rush stuff to do it. So I'll have a lot of respect for the way he conducts his business and the way he conducts, pushing his product. So when he released his product in 2017, 2018, that's when it really became an acceptable, high quality, high purity substance to consume for humans. And that's a whole other story, but I'll end there. Taylor, I know I kind of commandeered the conversation, but shoot some questions.
I can feel your passion just off of you, the way you speak. Two, it's funny you bring up how you were in physical therapy and the dry needling. Okay, I got Achilles tendonitis, and dry needling and shockwave, I took that route instead of physical therapy. And I swear I'm way beyond most people who just you go on these like Facebook Achilles tendonitis pages. Oof. And these people are suffering for years. And I have found so much healing solely from that. But then I started looking into the red light therapy. And then the more I looked into the red light therapy, I found wait, hold up. This isn't just for pain. This is for our overall health. So I feel like I'm in between you and Allison with like knowledge. Allison's like, okay, hey, like red light therapy. Okay. It all sounds very interesting. And then you're like this like complete expert where people are probably listening to you thinking, whoa, slow down. Cause you also said the methylene blue, which is recent to me from Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by that whole talk about with cancer and all that stuff. So, okay, first of all, before we ask any more questions, Allison, where are you at?
Okay, I was just going to say, you guys are talking about like methane something. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm not even kidding. I'm probably the average listener right now for a podcast. Yeah. So literally, I need people to break things down like I'm in third grade. So that would be amazing if you could do that. And also, Taylor, I think you meant Mel Robbins.
No. Mel Gibson.
It was Mel Gibson.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, Mel Gibson and Joe Rogan had a talk on it was the first time I like really on a more mainstream. Wait, did Mel Robbins talk about
I just saw something that Mel Robbins was talking about with like red light therapy and stuff like that, like on an Instagram thing. That is so funny.
Honestly, they're probably all doing it because it is right. So like the research and stuff behind it is just like, why would we not? And so, okay,
I'm excited.
Allison,
okay. Yeah.
Looking at our outline, let's just first stop and talk about red light therapy. Like you said, there's Amazon products and there's all of these companies that get a holistic health craze and they go in on it and they buy it. People buy it, they try it out and they're like, this is crap. I noticed nothing. So first of all, if someone's brand new to red light therapy, what should they look for? What makes BioLight different? And I know you said like the nanometers. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's just simply the wavelength of light.
Yes, so, the wavelength to access actually going into the mitochondria.
Mitochondria. So, well, a single one is called the mitochondrion. Mitochondria is multiple, not to get nerdy, but okay. That's a loaded question. There's a lot to cover there. So, let's first talk about red light therapy and the wavelength since you brought up nanometers. So red light versus near infrared light, those two spectra of light comprise red light therapy, both red and near infrared. The scientific term is photobiomodulation. So photo, light, modulation, changing your biology. So light that changes your biology. So photobiomodulation encompasses all light that has an effect, which can be blue light, it can be violet light, it can be UV. So Photobiomodulation is all of it. Red light therapy, again, even though red's the only one in the name, comprises red and near infrared. And that's because the mitochondria respond specifically to red wavelengths and near infrared, not orange, not yellow, and not mid or far infrared of saunas, specifically red and near infrared. So that's why red light therapy is what it is because of the excitation and the positive benefits you bestow on the mitochondria. So then that begs the question, okay, what's the difference between red light and near infrared light? They do the exact same thing physiologically, meaning they reduce inflammation, they improve circulation, they reduce oxidative stress, they improve mitochondrial function, which leads to a lot of other positive benefits. They just do it at different depths in the body. So red light, since it's a shorter wavelength relative to near infrared, it doesn't penetrate as deeply. So it only treats the skin. So that's why you see these red light therapy masks, or when people are treating their skin or wound healing, it's specifically that red light. Whereas near infrared light is a much longer wavelength. So red light is 600 to 700 nanometers, near infrared is 700 into the thousands. And since it's the longer wavelength, again, it penetrates deeper into the body. So anytime you want to use or treat your muscles, tendons, ligaments, brain, gut, what have you, you must integrate near infrared. When in doubt, use combo. But if you want to get a little more specific and nuanced, then you do want to be able to pick and choose one or the other or combination. So again, they do the same thing.
So that's the issue with like just getting a product, say for your face, and trying to put it on your leg.
Potentially.
It's not gonna. Okay.
But that's not black and white either, Taylor, because there's even research showing from a blood glucose standpoint, they only irradiated the back of people's shoulders and they got a systemic reduction in glucose. So, and I've interviewed researcher and photobiomodulation expert Dr. Praveen Irani several times. He's out of the University of Buffalo. And that's where I'm really able to nerd out on the details and the nitty gritty of red light therapy. But even he would say, like, okay, if you're trying to treat something like, let's say your Achilles, of course, it's best to directly irradiate the light where you want benefit, but inevitably there's going to be an overflow principle. So even if you only have red light and you're only treating the skin, you're probably going to get some downstream effects to deepen your body. But again, the best bang for your buck is to be specific with where you want to treat and integrate that near infrared if possible. Because again, red light doesn't penetrate deeper than the skin. Near infrared can go an inch and a half, maybe, so drastically deeper. So again, like, yes and no to your question. Like, yes, people aren't getting the max benefits, but you may be getting some downstream domino effect, even if it's red light only. So when people are looking at products on the market, virtually everyone has very similar wavelengths or nanometers. Most of them are around the 660 nanometer for red. A lot of them are around the 850 or 880 nanometer for near infrared. And we're not to the point in the research yet where, like, we know exactly what 660 does versus 650 versus 640 versus 630. I think we'll get there eventually. But as long as you're being exposed to red light, which is that visible red, and near infrared isn't visible. So if you turn on the near infrared only on your device, you can put your hand up like an inch or two away and you'll feel that warmth. It's not going to be a heat like a sauna, but it's warm. That's your near infrared light. And I've used a near infrared camera, military grade. One of my patients was in the military. He brought his camera over. And then we use that camera to look at the near infrared light. And it's amazing because it shines as brightly, if you will, as the red light. So like when you're shining the near infrared on the wall and we had this camera, it looks as if it's as bright as the red light. So I want to verify with people that, like, you can't see it, but it's as strong and as expansive as the red light. So now to directly answer your question, what should people look for? I've been arguing for years that people should be buying a product that's third-party tested, because now we're getting into the strength and the power of the device. And this is, I mean, we could spend an entire podcast on this topic alone. So I'll try to be as brief as I can, but you know how that's going to go based on my intro. So the power of the device or the power of the light does not equate to a better or lesser treatment. Because I think, and I fell prey to this early in my red light therapy days, is like, every company and every product out there is trying to tout that they have the quote unquote most powerful panel or most powerful product. And again, that's just marketing, whether that's intentional or ignorant, because it all comes down to the dosage of the treatment, meaning how many joules per centimeter squared is required to get a positive result for skin health, a positive result for brain health and anxiety versus Parkinson's versus Alzheimer's, positive. So all these have different dosages, and this is based on the research. And the power of your device thus dictates the duration of your treatment for a given dosage, if that makes sense. So a very drastic example could be, let's say we want to treat the skin, which is typically a lower dosage, a very low dosage treatment compared to the rest of the treatments because the skin's so superficial. You could treat with a red light therapy bulb, like an incandescent bulb, which is very low light irradiance, or we could treat it with a laser, which is very, very high light irradiance. The bulb could take 30 to 60 minutes. The laser is going to take you seconds for the exact same dosage. So now let's take that concept and look at the entire market. There's going to be panels that tout that they have 100 or 150 or 200 milliwatts per centimeter squared. That's the term for light irradiance. But the issue is, Taylor, that those products are not third-party tested. And it's been shown, this gentleman down in New Zealand who, his name is Alex Fergus, and he did this a couple of years ago. He took all of the panels he could get on the market at that time, saw what they were reporting as their light irradiance. Then he had the requisite technology and expertise to properly measure the light irradiance himself, so like third-party test himself. And all of the panels or all the devices were anywhere from 40% to a couple 100% lower in their light irradiance than they were reporting on their product page. Meaning, you're not getting what you paid for. And so as I'm going along this journey of like BioLight myself, it's like, okay, again, from an integrity and morality standpoint, I want to be as transparent as possible. So in early 2023, I initiated that all of our products will be third-party tested to verify, so you know what you're paying for. And so there's a lot of different directions we could go with that. But at the end of the day, well, I guess if we can take a quick step to the ebook I've developed, that's an educational tool. It's provided with anyone that buys a BioLight device, or you can just buy it by itself. But I've developed this protocol ecosystem, I call it, that literally allows anyone with any device. So you don't have to have a BioLight device, but if it's not third-party tested, then this is where it gets a little murky. The protocol ecosystem is there's a calculator on the BioLight website. Anyone can access it. You plug in two variables and this is for anyone with any device to figure out how they should treat whatever condition they're trying to treat. So the last couple of years, I've gone through the photobiomodulation research, 10,000 plus articles, found the ones that had positive results. And of those studies that had positive results, the ones that reported the dosage, I included in this Excel sheet that has now hundreds of conditions. Meaning you as a user, if you have access to this ebook, will have access to this spreadsheet. So you're going to have a list of these hundreds of dosages. And then again, whether it's a BioLight device or any other device, you take your light irradiance, plug that into the calculator, take your the dosage of whatever you're treating, plug that into the calculator, and it'll spit out the duration. So that makes it a very nuanced for people that want to nerd out. I know this is getting a little deep, but to your point, Taylor, people are investing potentially thousands of dollars into the red light therapy technology or devices, and they don't know how to use it. There can be some global statements of, as long as you're exposed to the red and near infrared light, you're probably going to get benefits. But especially if you're someone that has a med spa or you're a physician and you're trying to utilize red light therapy, especially that's where it becomes important to be a little more nuanced with your treatments.
Well, and I feel like you touched on something we just talked about. We do a live before we do the podcast. And I said in the holistic space, a lot of people give up on these modalities before they work because they're either not using the right product or, like you said, in the holistic space, a lot of things can happen with, supplements, and you're not even getting what you think you're getting because marketing, right? You can make something look so beautiful, so pretty, but people aren't getting the results. So they're going to give up easier, right? So I think that's why that education is so important. I think it's very important to nerd out and say that, because also I think if you're trying to treat a condition, you want the exact metrics of what you need to get done, you know? So I love all that. I'm a very detailed person. So that is really cool that you offer that. So protocol, dosage, I kind of saw that on your website. It was like, I didn't understand it, but now you've explained it.
Mm-hmm.
So you stated something. I don't have this on our outline, but you said the methylene blue is the one you think key factor with anxiety. So why is that?
Oh boy, another another loaded question.
Loaded
Not
question.
loaded. It's another.
Maybe just explain what methylene blue is
Yeah, of
first.
course. That's where I was going to begin. um, so methylene blue depends how far back historically you want to go. I mean, it was developed in the late 1800s as a textile dye. So this is a very um, there's a juxtaposition to this conversation because we're in the holistic space. We're trying to improve our health and longevity, yet we're about to talk about a synthetic substance.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to red light therapy, I've heard about methylene blue for years before I really got into it myself. Same thing, listening to the Ben Greenfield podcast, they're talking about methylene blue. They mentioned that it's also used in aquarium as an aquarium cleaner. So like my brain shut off as soon as I heard that, because it's like, okay, biohacking's cool, but like how far are we taking this thing with with aquarium cleaner? But anyway, it was early 2023, and I don't remember the exact moment or like what initiated this thought, but it was like, whoa, okay, I have a red light therapy company, and something reminded me that methylene blue is a major synergist with red light therapy, meaning if you have methylene blue in your body or topically, then you irradiate it with that red light, you're going to get more bang for your buck, so to speak, from a mitochondrial activation standpoint. But again, methylene blue, the story is historically developed in the late 1800s as a synthetic dye for like jeans and textiles. Eventually made its way into microscopy, so they're staining slides with it. While they're doing that, they noticed that these certain organelles really soaked up this blue dye that ended up being the mitochondria, by the way. Um, I think it was before the 1900 that they used it to treat um, malaria. Like they were able to cure people in 48 hours with malaria. So that was kind of its first introduction into the medical side of things. And then in the early 1900s, mid 1900s, now it's starting to be a little more studied in the health space, Alzheimer's disease, neurodegenerative diseases, late 1900s, like early 2000s, being studied more for like anti-cancer, mitochondrial function, and now here we are with like biohacking longevity side of things. So what does it do? It's an amazing, maybe one of the most profound antioxidants out there. Also one of the best antivirals out there. So when Mel Gibson was talking to Joe Rogan, part of it's the antiviral, but of course part of it's the anti-cancer properties. So any antioxidant is something that donates electrons. Not to get too nerdy, but or too chemical here, but this is where we get into mitochondrial function. Before we even go into that conversation, let me take one step back from a macroscopic perspective here. When we're talking about mitochondrial function, why are the mitochondria so important? Because that's really what underlies the importance or the profound nature of red light therapy and methylene blue and C60 and anything out there like grounding or hydrogen rich water. They're all somewhat having an impact on the mitochondria, because the name of the game for health and wellness is energy production in your cell. The mitochondria produce 95% of all of the energy in your body. Thus, a dysfunctional mitochondria is one that is producing substandard energy levels. The more mitochondria there are per cell, the more energy dependent that tissue or organ is, meaning the most mitochondrial dense tissues are the ones that require the most energy. So the brain, the heart, the liver, the eyes, skeletal muscle. But the brain by far is the most mitochondrial dense tissue. So it's a double-edged sword. Those tissues require the most energy. So if you have appropriate energy production, they're going to function fine. But as soon as the energy production goes below standard, that's where we start to see pathologies or diseases or cancers. But the root cause is dysfunctional mitochondria which not only is a low energy production, but that means they're producing more reactive oxygen species, which inevitably leads to oxidative stress. And all you have to do is Google or chat GPT, what are the implications of oxidative stress or excessive reactive oxygen species production. In virtually every disease or cancer out there is going to be somewhat, or if not directly, tied to that issue.
Yeah.
So again, it all comes down to optimizing mitochondrial function. Any modality, any nutraceutical is in some way going to have a correlation to mitochondrial function. So again, methylene blue or anything that's an antioxidant is donating electrons. You need electrons to run through the electron transport chain inside of the mitochondria, because that's what leads to ATP production, that energy of token. What most people, and even some textbooks I've been reading on mitochondrial function and nutraceuticals or anything, they forget about not only the ATP, the energy side of things, but mitochondria also produces water as a byproduct of energy metabolism, which gets very interesting when you start talking about water. And again, that's a whole other podcast. But are you familiar with Dr. Gerald Pollack in the fourth phase water, easy water?
No.
You haven't heard of that? We'll look into him. I mean, he's going to win a Nobel Prize at some point out of the University of Washington in Seattle. But I happened to be at a conference last April put on by Tracy Dews called the Hydrate Summit, where she collected all of the top water researchers in the world, and they just all presented. And then I happened to present on the mitochondrial stuff towards the end of that conference. But Dr. Gerald Pollack was there. He gave his presentation, and in between, I talked to him because after listening to the whole weekend of the implications of water and your health and what dehydration really means, and someone put up a picture of the brain when it's fully hydrated and then when it's dehydrated, and it's literally shrunken and smaller. But again, back to the mitochondria when they produce water. Well, and I asked Dr. Gerald Pollack this, can we increase our hydration by improving mitochondrial function, meaning not by drinking water? And he believed that's a very legitimate theory or potential mechanism, meaning if we do this grounding or red light therapy or methylene blue or any antioxidant or just getting out in full spectrum sunlight or reducing your stress, do some gratitude journaling, do some meditation, anything to reduce stress, because that's going to improve mitochondrial function. Anything that improves mitochondrial function will improve your hydration status systemically. So again, back to the mitochondria, we want electrons. That produces ATP. It also produces this biological water. When that biological water is irradiated by near infrared light, now we've got this EZ water. EZ water is a battery pack. It's a reservoir of electrons for your mitochondria. So now we have this interaction of light and water together here internally. So methylene blue is a major, major antioxidant. It is one of the best electron donors out there. And the reason it is so is because it's a recyclable and regenerative antioxidant, meaning it can donate electrons, accept electrons, donate electrons, accept electrons thousands of times before it starts degrading. Unlike vitamin C, vitamin E, these other antioxidants, once they start donating their electrons, now they're starting to degrade. Methylene blue almost has this perpetual ability to give and take, give and take, give and take. And so it's essentially providing the fuel the mitochondria need to produce energy. And again, from a bioenergetic perspective, the more energy you can produce per cell, the healthier you're going to be. The less energy you produce per cell, the more of a disease state you're going to have. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because when you look at stress, when you look at neurodegeneration, when you look at even obesity or metabolic disorders or gut disorders or thyroid disorders, the root cause is the mitochondria, because there's mitochondria inside of cells, cells inside of tissues, tissues inside of organs, organs inside of systems, systems make up the body, like the central nervous system. But it all goes down to that root cause of what's going on in the mitochondria. We typically don't see a diagnosis until it hits that tissue or maybe organ level. So that's why I'm so passionate about figuring out ways that people can effectively and efficaciously improve their mitochondrial function in this modern world, because we're spending less and less time outside in the sunlight. So if we think about our grandparents, let alone our great-grandparents, there would be no need for red light therapy. There would be no need for methylene blue from a medical perspective by and large, carbon 60, anything. they were outside almost all day. They were grounding inherently, or just by nature of being outside and their feet touching the ground. So a lot of these things I'm talking about, and I just happen to um, educate on. My company does have products that sell them. They're man-made solutions for man-made problems, more or less, if that makes sense. But that's where the world is going, where technology is going. So if people are just mindful of the impact of non-native EMFs, meaning Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 5G, those are literally microwaves for your mitochondria. And what does a microwave do? It dehydrates you. So that's a direct effect of non-native EMFs, is it's causing mitochondrial dysfunction. And there you go. Now they're not producing water. Now we're dehydrated. So that's just like one example. And we can go on and on. But methylene blue, anxiety. The kicker here is when you consume methylene blue, is there's 100x concentration in your central nervous system when you take methylene blue. So there's this interesting thing with methylene blue where you ingest it, it goes into your body and it goes into whatever cells are most metabolically dysfunctional, or really what cells are closest to cancer. It'll go there and fix those issues first, and then the vast majority is going to make it up into your brain. So it's going to improve energy. It's going to improve mitochondrial function. So energy, hydration status. It's going to improve circulation. It's going to reduce inflammation. It's going to reduce oxidative stress. All of those things in isolation, let alone combination, are going to lead to the signs and symptoms of anxiety and stress and depression, let alone neurodegeneration. So TBIs as well, methylene blue can help there because you get that cytokine storm when your brain's sloshing around. But by itself, that's how methylene blue can really move the needle. And even though it's a synthetic dye, which is like, I know how crazy that sounds, taken in the right dosages, it's extremely powerful. It's extremely safe, which is crazy as it sounds. And the upper, so for example, the normal dosage for methylene blue is about 10 to 15 milligrams twice a day. The upper limit for safe and effective is like 500 milligrams a couple times a day. So even this 10 to 15 is such a small amount relative to the safe and effective range, but it's that little amount that goes a long way for these myriad of mitochondrial dysfunction issues, including anxiety and stress.
That's so amazing. The whole time I was literally nodding my head like this, that I had to like tell myself to stop. I'm like, okay, you look crazy, but it's because I agree so much. I've educated myself so much on all of this, and you're just such a wealth of information. But going back to our questions, you kind of just answered one of them where you said, is there anybody who should not use red light or this methylene blue? And you kind of said, even at this small of the safe and effective is just so high, most people aren't even getting there. It's kind of like with CBD doses. It's like no one's going to overdose because the safe and effective dose limit, you don't even want to get there. So it sounds pretty safe for just about everybody to do both of these.
I don't want to say the caveat, because Dr. Michael Hamblin, he's out of Harvard, and he has gone on the record by saying he scoured the research. I mean, he is a researcher, but after reading and looking at all the research available at that time, there's no contraindications for red light therapy. The two interesting ones are cancer and pregnancy. Pregnancy, there's nothing that shows anything negative will happen, but we don't have any research showing that it's safe. So just don't directly irradiate the womb. You can treat other areas of your body. Who knows? Maybe you'll create a super baby. I don't know, but we just don't know. So err on the side of caution there. Same thing with cancer, except cancer is a little different. We actually have quite a bit of research in the red light therapy study land. Some research shows you can eradicate cancer cells with near infrared light or other light. There's other research showing that you will perpetuate the metastases or the progression of the cancer because you'll be providing energy. So at this time, unless there was a specific diagnosis that showed like really, really concrete evidence, man, if I had cancer, what would I do? Well, I probably would do it, but again, it's not concrete.
Yeah.
If I were
You just
me,
can't.
Taylor, and this is not medical advice, mitochondrial triad is one of the first things I would do if I had cancer, because of its anti-cancer properties and potential. The methylene blue, red light therapy, which is going to be, again, the synergism with methylene blue and red light therapy. And then C60 as well has some huge anti-cancer properties because of what it does. So I guess even though the research is still kind of on the fence with cancer, like I'm not going to go do chemo. I'm not going to go do the centralized medicine stuff. Like you, I'm going to do some deep dives into see what's out
Yeah.
there and go that way. But red light therapy and methylene blue would be high on the list.
Okay, we have said a lot. Allison, you've listened a lot from some like so give us a question. I know you
Thank
got
you.
one.
Okay, honestly, my question is if someone went to your website and like me, and I know for me, the stuff that I've heard, and now I know a little bit better from a scientific perspective, but I still am kind of like cross-eyed right now. Um, I know that I want to learn more about how it helps like my skin. I know that's something for me, my skin. I know that I have like joint pain in my back, and I know that um I don't know, I'd like to just have the benefits of it in general. My question is like where would I even start? Where would I go to your website and say, "Okay, maybe that product is what I'm going to buy today?" Like what would I do?
Good question, Allison. What would you do? Well, if you want a direct answer, we're in the middle of completely renovating our website, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. We have a bunch of blogs. Like if you wanted to read, how does red light therapy affect sleep? How does red light therapy affect pain? How does red light therapy affect X, Y, and Z? We have a ton of blogs, both for red light therapy and methylene blue. But if you're looking at products and you're trying to like rationalize in your head, okay, what's best for me? The things I always ask people are A, how much of your body do you want to treat at once? More is better, but again, sometimes you don't have the space, sometimes you don't have the financial um, ability to do so at the time. So, how important is treating as much of your body as possible versus spot treatments? And then, secondarily, how important is portability? Kind of like we're talking about, some of these panels are big, you can't really lug them around, sometimes even from room to room, let alone taking them on the go, like in your car or whatnot. So, those are the two questions I would ask because you can attain an effective dosage with any device, kind of like I was talking about this red light therapy bulb versus the laser. All the products that are on the market, I'm not trying to downplay them or throw any shade on them. It's the third party testing so that you, the consumer, can have an apples to apples comparison. It's not about BioLight versus this company. It's about me, the consumer. I want to know what this product produces from a light intensity standpoint versus this because that is going to determine how I treat with it, the duration, the length of the treatment. Is it more efficient? That's what light intensity really is. Is do you want a more efficient treatment, or do you want, for example, like we have a product called the Cocoon. It's like a red light therapy sleeping bag. It's a very low light irradiance intentionally because I think when you're doing a full body treatment, especially 360 all at once with all of those LEDs, you don't want to blast your cells with these powerful lights all at once. There's research showing that like a low and slow approach is more beneficial than this throwing high energy all at once. So there's a time and place for a low and slow approach. Um, so there's handheld devices. There's the portability factor. Treating spot treatments. Maybe you just want to treat your forehead. Maybe you just want to treat the brain for anxiety and stress. Or cool research showing just treating the gut can lead to benefits to the brain, like specifically for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. But you could probably hazard a guess through that gut brain axis, you're going to get some reduced stress because you're going to produce a lot of serotonin and dopamine by irradiating your gut. So you can do a lot with a handheld device. Um, if you have a systemic condition or you're really wanting to treat as many of your cells as possible, then again, that's where I would recommend something closer to a full body apparatus, whether it's a panel or a mat or what have you. I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it does. It helps. I guess I'm just wondering, and it sounds like actually your ebook would be something that would be good for me, as far as what you were just saying now and before with all of the like methylene blue and like the dosages and where, what that would mean for whatever ailment I'm working on physically or mentally. Because that's what it sounds like this is, which is totally about holistic health. Is a lot of it is education. Because I like imagine myself, and maybe I'll just give you an example of what you would do. There is a place near me about 20 minutes away that has a bed, has a red light therapy bed. That's all I know. I don't know all of the numbers you just said and what's important. If I were to go in there knowing after this conversation, I want to actually go in and I'm like, oh, she actually wanted to invite me in to try her services. And I'm like, oh, I'll ask for the red light thing now. What would when I go in there, what specifically would I say to her?
What like what are you, what's your
Like,
approach?
what would I say? Would I say, I heard you had red light therapy here. I'm looking for that. Would I go in already knowing I know I want these amount of milliwatts per centimeter squared? I know I want this type of ailment I have. I know, like, would I go in there knowing that first? Or would I?
Hmm. Yeah, so and I've had even my father-in-law when he was doing like at the gym he was at the time, like they had like a red light therapy thing you could stand in, kind of like a tanning stand-up situation. He sent me the company name or like the product name, and like we both did our tried to find the all the appropriate numbers on the product page, but they provided not even the wavelengths, let alone the light irradiance. So you're going to run into a lot of issues here. Like I alluded to earlier, you could ask them what the light irradiance is. They may or
Yeah.
may not know because the or the product may or may not tell them. But secondarily, the chances of it being third party tested are below 1%. So the number, even if they do report to you a number, it's not going to be accurate. It's going to be elevated or embellished, if you will. So what would you go in? And again, Allison, this is kind of um, where I struggle because I know I get really deep into the research and then like deep into the weeds of stuff. But if you, just the lay consumer, go to a service or an area that's servicing red light therapy, you're probably going to see some benefit just by their simple 10 to 15 to 20-minute treatment that they're offering. It may be too much. It may be spot on. It's probably not going to be too little. Um, so I battle between nerding out and getting too deep, and then like not scaring people like you, but like throwing too much information so that it's almost like analysis or paralysis by analysis. I want people to try red light therapy, get exposed to the wavelengths, because inevitably they're going to be healthy. Maybe don't get too hung up on the numbers. Go see what they
Okay.
offer. See if they offer different sessions. And what people, I've been having a lot of different conversations with people around the country that are wanting to offer red light therapy. So we're having a lot of these conversations where I'm like, if I'm you offering red light therapy, I would be using this protocol ebook or this protocol ecosystem. Once you understand it, it's very easy to use. But I would be offering not set duration of treatments, because I think a lot of people do like 15 minutes or 30-minute sessions. I would be saying, okay, Allison, what do you want to treat? And you're maybe just like set 10 things that I'm going to offer, so I already know what the durations are. Like, do you want skin? Do you want like athletic performance? Do you want sleep? And then based on those options, you're already going to know what the duration is based on the device or apparatus you're using in-house. That's how I would do it. It would be treatment specific versus just a
Yeah.
global duration.
That, I mean, that helps me, even just that answer, because now I'm thinking like, well, do I want to go do that? Okay, yes, there's no harm in doing it, is what I'm hearing you're saying. Of course,
Yep.
there's no harm in doing it, but what do I want to actually have a product? Maybe I can't buy a bed; they're like thousands of dollars, but have something, one of your products that I can actually hold and wherever it is for my skin. Let's just say
Yep.
that. Um, and then actually learn, knowing I have the product, like how often do I want to use this, and how consistently do I need to use this, because maybe it's not even financially possible for me to go to this place every
Right.
day for 20 minutes a day, or I can't, you know what I mean? So it sounds like maybe that's something that would be more helpful, as far as if you want to really use it in a way that would be like beneficial and consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe to your point, like before you, for some people, it might be wise to go try it out and see if you like it or see if you like positive effects. But a lot of the companies like BioLight and otherwise, we offer 60-day trials. So you could even just get a device, try it, and within a couple of months, if it doesn't work for you or it just doesn't fit your regimen for whatever reason, then send it back. So that's another option too.
I think so. Like our last question, you both were kind of talking about it a little bit. I think some people just asked, "Hey, what should I expect to feel during or after a session?"
Assuming it's your first time or one of your first times using red light therapy or methylene blue or C60. We haven't talked much about C60, but that's fine. Let's just use red light therapy, methylene blue. A couple of things are likely to happen: increased energy, improved sleep. You kind of normalize that circadian rhythm, especially with the light. But even with methylene blue, just by improving mitochondrial function, you'll normalize the circadian rhythm and circadian biology. Reduced pain for people that are dealing with that type of stuff. Quite often, that's reduced right off the bat. Um, but with
Oh my
both of
gosh, you
them,
know what? You know what just clicked in my brain?
hmm,
Okay, so a tanning bed. You know how people leave tanning beds feeling amazing? Is that because of all those lights?
so
Or
that's
is it a different
predominantly
light?
UV, right?
Oh,
Well, I
so
mean,
it's
it
not
is
red.
UV. No, so the
Yeah.
UVB, so red is, if you can, red is here.
Yeah.
UV is all the way over here.
Okay.
Infrared is over here. My point being, UV is extremely short wavelength compared to red, meaning it penetrates even less of the skin, which is why UV causes sunburns and like nothing deeper. Um, so I don't know, and I haven't really done deep research, but I don't think there's any direct correlation between UV light and mitochondrial function.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, so what side effects? Energy, um, like I said, sleep, circadian rhythm, pain relief. But the one that can happen sometimes, especially the first time or two, is this detox reaction. Because if you've been retaining a lot of heavy metals or toxins, just like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the first time you do that, you could potentially be opening up these pathways because you're going to be improving blood flow and oxygenation, which is also going to release these toxins if they've been bound up for a while. So you could have this detox reaction where you get some headache or malaise or fatigue or feeling a little nauseous. Again, that's very few and far between, but it can happen. And of course, that's not a fun feeling, but if you understand what's happening, that's a good thing because if you stay consistent with those treatments, that'll dissipate over time. And on the other side of that, you're going to see these massive improvements. And so, um, yeah, those would be the main things people could look out for when initiating red light therapy or methylene blue.
Oh, well, that was all awesome to me. I like you said about how you can feel a little almost flu-like. I actually had that the first few times when I did dry needling with shockwave and
Mm,
manipulation. And they were like, yeah, that can happen. And it definitely is nice to know ahead of time because I was like, why am I so like I felt like after my session I was just like, oh, and then after a while it got better. So I'm assuming that would be the same with red light. Once you start that detoxing process over time, you don't always feel like that every time you use it.
right. I think it would be worst the first time, which is just like dry needling. For example, when your body is most inflamed, the needles are most painful. As you
Mm,
begin to recover and you get rid of that garbage and inflammation, it gets to the point where the needles, like you can almost not feel them. But when you're
yeah.
sensitive, it's not that fun, which is kind of an unfortunate paradox because I experienced this a lot as a physical therapist doing dry needling. It's the most painful the first time, so it can be difficult to get people to come back. But to your point, if you
Yeah.
educate them, like you can expect this, and as we keep going on, it's going to get better and better. So it'll be worth it in the end. But it is kind of difficult to deal with the first time or two.
I just have one more thing I want you to clarify. Whether I'm going into this like red infrared bed or I'm putting it on my face, is there like people think of light and they think of heat? Is it something that's going to make you hot when you do it? You
So
getting
yeah, so I mean that's multifactorial in the sense. Are you talking specifically about this bed,
no,
or
I'm
just in
just
general?
thinking red light in general. Like, are you sitting near it and I see a red light and it's hot and I shouldn't touch it? Or
Well, so I mean, again, red light therapy comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. Like this is
got it?
one of our lowest light ratings. Like most red light therapy products, you don't want to look straight into the LEDs because they're so strong. But like this is
Okay.
literally relaxing for my eyes. So like this apparatus would actually be best for eyes and skin because the light irradiance is so low. But again, if you have like a panel or even a bed, it's not going to be anywhere close to an infrared sauna because again, those use predominantly mid and far infrared, which are even longer, meaning they penetrate even deeper into your body. They're the ones that produce the most heat. The infrared, the near infrared, will produce a slight warmth. Now, if you're in something that's like a bed or like our cocoon, which is that sleeping bag situation, it's enclosed. So you have that enclosed light plus your body heat. Yeah, it's going to get a little warm after 20, 30, 40 minutes, but it's not going to be anywhere near like an infrared sauna. But that brings up a good point. I'll just throw this out there quickly because there's a massive trend for people incorporating red light therapy and infrared saunas. In the biohacking world, it's like, let's do as many things at once. But what I learned from that researcher, Dr. Praveen Irani, on my podcast, is he told me in my audience that you do not want to combine those two because the heat from the infrared sauna will inhibit the benefits you would otherwise get from the red light therapy. So just separate them out.
Interesting.
Everybody's into that habit stacking right now.
That makes sense.
57 thing.
Makes sense until it doesn't work.
57 things
until it doesn't work. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah. So you shared a lot. I know we didn't hit carbon 60, but I think if we did, we'd be here for 16 more hours because you're just
I don't think I could do more science today.
Okay,
I honestly am done with science for the day. Sorry. My brain is like atrophying.
Well, just get some methylene blue in there.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, God.
So just a quick anecdote. The first time I tried methylene blue, I could literally feel it in my brain. It was almost like a tingling or a vibration but I could just feel something happening in my brain. Not like a jittery, like a cough or anything. I liken it to an increased frequency or like an increased vibration. And that's something, I guess that's what I was alluding to with like the first time you use these things like methylene blue or red light therapy, increased energy, increased focus, increased cognition, especially with methylene blue. And that falls in line with a lot of the things of anxiety and stress is when you're improving oxygenation, and the mitochondria need oxygen to produce ATP in that water, when you're improving energy production, when you're improving blood flow, and you're reducing inflammation, you're reducing oxidative stress, all of those things being reduced or improved are the complete opposite of what's happening with anxiety and anxiety and stress. So that's why methylene blue is so amazing. Red light therapy does the same thing, but you need a powerful device. It does take longer because that near infrared light has to penetrate through the skull. So those treatments can be much longer compared to like treating the skin or otherwise. So that's why I went off the bat and said methylene blue would be my number one choice for anxiety and stress because it's easy to take. Most of it's going to your brain and you're going to see those benefits quickly.
Awesome. Wow. I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on here and just educating. We love having all different types of modalities come on here and we love the experts like you to do it because when we just talk about it, we don't really know what we're saying, but I think you gave us all that we needed to hear. So I think people are educated now on red light therapy and methylene blue. So if you want to check out more on Dr. Belkowski, go to, what would you say?
My personal Instagram is where I'm most active. I'm trying to I always get tied down in computer land, but I'm trying to be more consistent with my content production. But Instagram's the most consistent for now. My handle is Dr. Mike Belkowski. And then also BioLight is biolight.shop, virtually on all social media, but that's also the website. It's not .com, it's biolight.shop. Those would be the best places for now.
Awesome. And we'll have everything in the show notes if you want more information. So thank you for coming on and see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me, Taylor and Allison.
Bye.